Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree Buonomo. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. And today I'm bringing to you my February 2022 wrap up. It is a little bit delayed, but that is my life because either I am not in the mood to film this week or I don't have time to film, and both are equally true and sometimes true at the same time. So I'm finally bringing this to you guys, a little bit delayed, but it is here, and it is just talking about all the things that happened in the month of February for me. Now, normally I go pretty into depth with these things, but I vlogged almost every week in February. So a lot of my life and writing updates were kind of in those vlogs. Even if I didn't show much in my vlogs, I talked through a lot of things. So I think I can keep this pretty succinct, and I will just jump into the video. So let's talk about the books I read, the things I wrote, and some personal life tidbits that might not have been included in my vlogs for the month of February. First up are the books I read, and I only completed 2 books in the month of February. The first is Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. This is the sequel to Serpent and Dove. This book follows a witch and a witch hunter who are forced into a marriage of convenience and kind of have an enemies to lovers trope in the beginning of the series where they don't really like each other. The witch hunter doesn't know he's married to a witch, and the witch has to try to keep this a secret, all while trying to infiltrate and understand the witch hunter organization and its mechanisms and understand her newfound husband. So there's a lot of fun in the first novel, and when I read the first novel, I devoured it. I finished it within like a few days, I think, and they were pretty chunky. So I thought like it was an easy read. It was a fun read. I liked the little bit of tension. The characters are upper YA. I really think they're pushing into that new adult category because they are like 1920 and there are some sex scenes, at least in the first novel. I don't think there really is any in the second book actually, which, come to think of it, I'm kind of shocked by, but hey, whatever. So this novel follows directly after the events of the first book, so I really won't talk too much about this, but I will just say that this book did not entertain me nearly as much as the first book, and I didn't enjoy it as much. I feel like a lot of this felt like middle book syndrome, where there were things thrown in to keep the plot going, but maybe not enough to keep it entertaining for a full book. There were definitely things that slowed down the pacing and things that I stopped caring about. It went back and forth between Lou and Reed's perspectives, the 2 main characters, and I didn't really care to be in either of their heads. Like, nothing was really ever compelling enough for me to care about going back to the other character. So like when one chapter would end, it would be the next, and it just kind of made that process for me not want to keep reading it. I also felt like some things were like dropped here and there in the book that were never brought back up in the context. And at one point I remember texting my friend Maddie about this, asking her like, did this just happen? And even she was like, oh, maybe for a couple seconds. But it like bothers me because like if the implication is there in the second book and it doesn't come back in the third book, like there was a huge thing that happened, but like it was so brushed off and not even mentioned by the characters. And in my head, I would be like, wait, come again? What just happened? But no one cared. So I don't know. I think this book maybe tried to take itself too seriously. Like the first book was very fun, and I also think that that could be a criticism for other people if they didn't like it because it was very lighthearted. So I feel like this did the reverse, where the first book I had a lot of fun and I just enjoyed it for being I don't want to say a nonsense novel, but just a very lighthearted fantasy novel. And then this book came in and tried to make things so much more serious, and maybe because of that, I just didn't enjoy it as much. I'm hoping the third book wraps things up nicely. I will continue in the series, but for this one, it was just middle of the road for me. Nothing too exciting. The second book that I fully finished in the month of February was The Girl and the Goddess by Nikita Gill. So this is a collection of poems and short stories that all tell a story. So it's a novel in verse, and it follows a girl named Pero as she is a child up until her like mid-20s, and kind of following her life as she grapples with her sexuality, her faith, and understanding the gods that she worships and her family worships in a new context. As I mentioned, this is a novel in verse, And I did not realize it was a novel in verse when I first picked it up. I thought it was a collection of poetry and maybe short stories. So initially, when I started this, I struggled to get into it. One, because I think it was telling a story and I didn't realize it at the time. And two, there is a lot of new age poetry where it's very blunt and to the point, and sometimes there are very pretty lines, but it's the type of poetry that I'm not usually a fan of, because I typically like my sentences with meanings and not seemingly random breaks and extended metaphors and like painting a picture with your words. And not that this didn't do it at all, it just isn't the general type of poetry I enjoy reading. However, once I kind of looked at it more as a story instead of pieces of poems, I ended up actually really loving this book in its entirety. I thought the story itself was very beautiful, and this is the first and only book by Nikita Gill I've read, and I know she has other works of poetry, so this is more, I think this is her first novel in verse, so maybe if I read the other ones I wouldn't enjoy them as much, but I really loved the story. I loved watching Pero struggle with very real things and the consequences of those actions. There's a lot of heavy topics in this, and there is a nice warning in the front, which, as you can see, there's quite a bit there. Some of like the general gist is there's a lot of mental health, sexual assault, homophobia, and like questioning sexuality and generational trauma, plus like some topics of religion. This follows a lot of the Hindu myths. So that's just a slice of what's in here, but it's not it looks like maybe a longer book, but it reads pretty fast because they are poems and short stories. So overall, I really liked how it pieced together, and it ended up being a very hopeful story in the end, where it could have just dragged you down and punched you in the face with how sad everything was. But Pero is a very inspiring character, and I liked seeing conclusions to the things. Like, things weren't just dropped in and forgotten about, they were brought back up to kind of complete the story. So this one was the better read of the two physical books that I read, and I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely recommend if you are into the kind of like new age style of poems that are pretty popular, like Nikita Gill's other works, Ruby Carr, Katie Wismer, anything like that. I think you would enjoy this. And then otherwise, I also started The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. It is a pretty thick book, and it is taking me a little bit longer to get through, but I'm obsessed. I love everything about this book. I also think R.F. Kuang is an inspiration. She's incredibly young, and she's incredibly talented, and I wish I had a fraction of what she brought to the page at such a young age. I think in my research on her, I think the book was published when she was 20, which means that she wrote the book and completed it beforehand, and that just baffles me, and I'm amazed, and that's amazing. So congrats. Rebecca's probably never going to watch this video, but you go, girl. Anywho, about the book, I'm loving it so far. I definitely think I'm already recommending it to people. I've already been recommending it to people, and I am hoping to finish in March. There should be no reason I can't finish, but I've just been finding it hard to have the time to listen. So maybe soon, but we'll see. Moving on to the things I wrote in February, and this is a section that I will take the least amount of time in because I will refer you to my query vlogs that I've posted on my channel. I did 3 different vlogs in the month, I believe, and they all pretty much sum up what I've been working on. But to brief you here, I really went back in and started to tackle my query package once more. So I took a writing class and I got a query critique that was the first 10 pages, which is typical for your query package when you're sending it off to agents to see if they're interested. And I rewrote my query letter again. This time I feel like I did much better because feedback I got from another author was that the first paragraph of my query letter was very enticing, which made me feel really good after doing this for 2 months and struggling with how to write my query letter. So I think we have a good start. I do think I am going to still pay for a query package to get my query and a synopsis critiqued. but we didn't get there in February. We kind of pumped the brakes to make sure that I have each step taken care of. But overall, that's been what I've been working on, is my query package for my adult fantasy novel that I would like to query within the next month. I did attempt to do a little bit of work in my vampire novel, but that didn't go very well. I just kind of wrote, I think I finished a chapter, which was already started, and that was the only chapter I've written, so it didn't go as far. And I also completed a short story edit for something that I would like to submit. To be honest, I probably should have submitted it, but I wanted to do one more read through, and I kind of keep putting off writing other things until I get my query out because I'm having a hard time concentrating on anything else. And I don't feel like I'm going to put my best work forward if I'm so preoccupied with getting the query done. So I think I'm going to finish my query package, get all my research and my info done, get my critiques and get my feedback back, and then I'm going to start working on other things because I have quite a few projects that are in the middle of being started or should be sent off, and I have yet to do so. So that's kind of my writing update. For some personal tidbits, I will start with the obvious, and as this was in my last vlog, my basement flooded. This room in particular that I film in and is my library, the floor got pretty wet. Thankfully, my husband was home that day and caught it and was able to turn off the water before it damaged anything or got too high. But the biggest thing was my writing / laptop backpack. And as we can see, my notebook got pretty damaged. It's not great. It's definitely not great. Some of the wording is pretty, like, it's still legible, but it was cutting it very close, and yeah. I think my heart was more affected by this because I've had this notebook since I was 18, and this is all of the beginnings of my work with my co-written book with my friend Caitlin, and this is where we started with that project. So this holds like 12, 14 years of memories at this point. Like it's so much time that it holds, and while, like I said, most of it seems to be okay, it's also not great. So that was kind of the biggest hit for me. But at the same time, I will also accept that because my computer, which was the most expensive thing, is completely fine, thank God. And all of my books are fine. So I didn't really lose anything, and I still can read the notebook. It's just not as clear as it once was. And there might be some pages that are unsavable, but we'll deal with it. I've also been experiencing some stress with grad school. I made my schedule so that I only had to worry about my practicum this semester, meaning that any time that wasn't dedicated to work, I would have dedicated to practicum. And I've been having some struggles with clients. So I was only supposed to have 4 clients that I would see 2 and 2, like on and off. So 2 one week, another 2 the other week, and then switch. And that hasn't been working out because I had 2 clients, one that just completely went MIA and I haven't heard from since the beginning of February, and the other one that keeps no-showing me, which is when they just don't show up and they don't call. And it's kind of hurting my hours right now because I need 40 hours of face-to-face time, and I am below average right now because those 2 people kept canceling or not showing up on me. So I was a little bit worried, and that was causing me a lot of stress. And I think overall my mood in February was very low because of it. And I was feeling just a little depressed, and I'm trying to pick myself back up and not worry about things and do a lot of self-care. And I have some ways that I can maybe manage to get some more hours in. I also am taking on a new client next week, thankfully. So I will technically be up to 5. But I don't technically have one of those 5 because they haven't been showing up and contacting me in a month. So we'll see. I think I can balance it, and I might just take the new client that I have and maybe try to see once a week for at least a month until I can get things stable again, and we might be fine. But we're going to be okay. It's going to work out, and I'm going to make sure that even if I have to take on 1 new client before the end of April, I will do that just to get my hours in. So it's going to be good. Otherwise, February honestly just seems like a blur, and I don't even know what exactly happened. I was supposed to do like a writing Twitter contest, and then I forgot about that. I was supposed to go out with friends one night, and that ended up not happening because I was a stressed mess, and I just really had a hard time functioning. I was also supposed to see a friend before she went to Florida. I did end up seeing her, but not in the context that we initially planned to do. So there's a lot of things that got shifted and moved around. It was my mom's birthday in February, and we did have a really nice breakfast for her as well. We went out to dinner as like a girls' night, and then we did a breakfast with our family, and that was really nice. I also had my stepdad's birthday, my grandfather's birthday, and my cousin's birthday. So really, in the month of February, I went out to eat a lot because all of my family's birthdays are essentially in the month of February. So that's our tradition. We typically, when it's like the close family, we go to breakfast. And for like my cousin, we did a girls' dinner. So yeah, I just ate a lot of food in February. I can also maybe talk about some shows I've watched and movies maybe. I won't do really reviews on this, but if you want any in-depth thoughts, feel free to comment below and we can talk in the comments. I watched the show Peacemaker on HBO Max, which is kind of like following the DC character Peacemaker after James Gunn's Suicide Squad from 2021. Really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was well written. I really liked the pacing and liked the balance of like serious natures and comedic timing. Just thought it was a really well done show and I liked it. We continued watching Ink Master, and I'm pretty sure we finished season 3 in February. And it's a really, really entertaining show. I don't know why. I just love it so much. And of course, we finished Euphoria in February, me and my husband. We were pretty obsessed with that when we started it in January, and we finished it into the month of February when the second season concluded. I don't know if I like the second season as much as the first season. There definitely seemed to be some drastic changes, but then they also focused on other characters that I really liked. So it wasn't bad. I hope that they have more direction for the third season, because they cut out some characters and there seemed to be maybe some drama on set from what I read on the internet, but I still like the show and I'm excited to see where it goes in the next season, which is going to be 2 years from now. So I got a long time to wait. I'm pretty sure we watched another show, and I also know we watched probably 2 movies. And I don't remember what happened. Seriously, February was such a blur that I can't even remember what I did like last week, let alone the whole month. So I'm sorry. There is probably more updates to my life. I just can't think of them. So I think on that note, I am going to end this little catch up with you guys here. Like I said down below, feel free to ask me whatever in the comments, and if something sparks my mind and I remember something else, I'll throw it in a pinned comment. But yeah, just interact with me, ask me things if you want, and tell me how your February went. What did you work on in the month? What did you watch? What did you do? Was anything exciting or fun? Or did you maybe have a hard time as well? Because I wasn't expecting February to kick me so much, but it did. But we made it through. We're into March, and that's something we can all celebrate. So let me know down in the comments anything you want and start a conversation with me there. And until next time, I'll see you then.